Hey everybody, I'm sitting out here next to a garden box that I built and I just wanted to show you that it's doing a great job. It's growing some great summer squash and some tomatoes. It looks a little bit like this from the bottom. And the reason I'm sitting next to this box is that it has taught me a lot about the concept of failure. And that's what I want to talk about today. Back in 2008 approximately, my wife came to me and said, hey, I want to build a garden in this yard. And we had just built this house a year or so before, and the yard was a mess, and the soil was all really rocky. It was just a really difficult process. And she picked up a book from a neighbor called The Square Foot Garden, which talked about raised beds. And it was really fascinating to me. I don't know why my brain just loved the idea of the efficiency of it. And I just dug into it. And I built a couple of square foot gardens. And the gardens worked, but they were difficult because they would dry out so fast. And I just really wasn't totally happy with that idea. So I learned about a different concept of something called a sub-irrigated garden. And that was another fast. It was like a new invention. So I started working with the sub-irrigated gardens, and my brain just exploded. Like, I tried to build these things. I bought all sorts of supplies from Menards, created these big kind of waterbed like gardens, and they were just okay. Occasionally I'd get a success, but most of the time I'd be sort of really not up to speed with my neighbors who were doing in-ground gardening. And my wife sure pointed that out to me. She would be clear like, hey, did you know these friends were getting tons of beans as I was getting just a couple of them? Or, wow, look at the neighbor's tomatoes as mine were just sort of miserably growing. And I would find myself really kind of annoyed by the discouragement, but yet I didn't want to go to just the straight in-ground garden. And for lots of reasons, I think mostly just because I just kept telling myself, I can do this, I can figure this out. I, over a dozen years, rebuilt these ideas of these gardens, these raised bed gardens, and rebuilt them. And every year, a new season, it takes a while for a cycle to occur. I'd figure out something just slightly better, slightly more successful way to do it. And over now these 15 years, I have my most successful design yet. That this is what I call a sub-irrigated garden. It's got built-in trellis supports. The wood doesn't rot because it's got a way that I protect it from the moisture. So and it's just rocking it this year. We're getting huge growth, lots of tomatoes. The plants are just loving this. So this demonstrates what failure means. If I had taken this dream I had and said, oh, I want to build or rebuild a garden that makes a better product, but had decided after the first year of trying that it wasn't going to work and I was going to quit because I didn't get the production that I was hoping for, if that's how I defined success or defined failure, that's what I would have ended with. And if I had listened to my bride to tell me, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be growing it in ground, that's how plants like it, then I would have decided that my idea was a failure and that I would have quit. Failure is a mental construct. It's something that we make up in our own minds. We actually don't decide that something is a failure until we determine what that means. If I had decided that the production of my plant garden was the measure of whether I was successful, of course I would have said, well, that's not working. I guess I failed. But for some reason, that wasn't where I went. My measure of failure was, well, if I can't figure this out, that's what determines failure. And it's taken a long time and I've got the literal $1,000 tomato for sure. And it's so fun to see what happens when I didn't quit, to see what happens and how these gardens are flourishing now. When we know that failure is something that we make of it in our mind. We can do much more with our dreams, because if we know that our dream is going to bump up against these thoughts in our mind, like, oh, you can't do this, other people are going to criticize me, I'm going to expend a lot of money and potentially waste a lot of money, all of these thoughts that we can anticipate that we're going to bump up against when we pursue this dream, if we know they're coming and we can anticipate they're coming, that's a superpower. Because if we know what to anticipate, we can make a plan. And that's what I call the failure plan. The failure plan is simply just anticipating all of the obstacles, all of the ways that we can imagine we're going to fail, the feelings of rejection from others, the feelings of disappointment, the feelings of loss of something we value like our money, all of that stuff we can anticipate ahead of time. And we can choose to not make that mean that we'll never get to the goal. We can choose to make that mean, oh, this is supposed to happen. This is what my brain's going to do. It's going to try to stop me from wanting to proceed because it doesn't want me to feel this pain. It wants me to feel pleasure. It wants me to resist any stress. And that's what we call the failure plan. So if you have a huge dream and you want to see something amazing happen with your future in your life, know that you're going to have the sense of discomfort that's associated with the feeling of failure. And your brain's going to tell you, oh, just quit, because that's how you relieve this tension. I want to encourage you not to quit. I want to encourage you to proceed and expect that you're going to feel the feelings and that you can handle those feelings and that you can create this amazing dream. It starts with a failure plan, recognizing that you're going to feel the feelings, knowing no matter what commitment that you have to completing the dream, and just approaching each of these moments when you bump up against these uncomfortable things with a resolution of like, oh, I expected that. That's going to happen. I guess this one is another learning moment. Recognizing what you need to know and think when you bump up. If you want some help doing this, I'm a life coach, and that is what I love doing. I love helping people meet and reach their high, hard dreams with their life. That might be in weight loss, that might be in accomplishing some sort of relationship goal, and we can work together to understand what you're going to bump up against, learn and make a decision about what you're going to make that mean for yourself. If you'd like to do this kind of work together, let me know. You can reach out to me through my email. Thank you.